Hello, welcome to Beyond Profit. My name is Gireendra Kasmalkar. I am a member of the Social Innovations Lab at the Pune International Center. We run a program called the Social Enterprise Mentorship Program, where we mentor social entrepreneurs of various backgrounds. These are finalists selected for the National Conference of Social Innovation, and 6 rural, 6 tribal, and 6 urban entrepreneurs are offered this mentorship. And I'm very, very proud to say that we have been doing this for the last 7 or 8 years with great success. Now, a lot of these social entrepreneurs, what they need is funding. And towards that, CSR funding is one of the biggest sources. So it is a great opportunity for me today to have a chat with Yogita Apte, who is the head of the CSR at Persistent Systems, a well-known IT company from Pune. So we are going to talk in this session about the CSR activity in general, what Persistent does, and what Yogita's herself, her own perspective is about this activity. So welcome Yogita to this show.
Thank you so much.
Before we start on the CSR of Persistent, can you just tell us about your own journey, how you have reached here right from the beginning of your career?
Initially I wanted to become a teacher.
Okay.
Because my grandfather was a teacher and was working with Shri Dhundokeshav Karve's school. So I wanted to become a teacher. Then I wanted to become a policeman. And then in one of my NSS camps, one of the social workers had a session. And then I realized that no, this is something which I wanted to do. So I took a master's degree in social work from Karve Institute of Social Service. And then started my career with an organization working in community development. So for 5 years I worked with them in the space of education and got an experience of working across Maharashtra along with them. Then for a period of 10 years I worked with a crisis intervention center along with Pune Police, which was a center for people affected with domestic violence. And all types of cases, all types of relationship patterns, behavior patterns could be seen. So 10 years of that. And one small venture of research for a period of an year. And then I realized that as I'm working in the space of NGOs, social sector, corporates are also funding many NGOs, but sometimes it happens that translating what exactly they are doing and for what we need funding is something which a corporate also needs to know. And so I decided that after 15 plus years of NGO career, now let's become work like a bridge between the two. And so I decided to join corporate career. Fortunately, I could get an opportunity with a leading group. I was part of Tata Motors for a period of 5 years. And there also I used to work for drinking water initiatives, education initiatives. And after that in Persistent for last 9 years.
Excellent, excellent. So it looks like while you finally found your calling, you also got to work with the police as you had thought.
Yes.
So that was, you managed to do almost everything that could be done in this on the NGO side and now on the corporate side. But that's a good segue into now being in Persistent, so to talk about what Persistent CSR is wanting to do. So can you talk a little bit about Persistent CSR?
Sure. So Persistent, as we all are aware, a software company established by Dr. Anand Deshpande. And since the beginning, since the inception, the concept of giving back was there. So immediately after 1 year of company's establishment, the giving back had started. Till 2009, we were supporting NGOs who were in and around our company and were doing excellent job. But then we realized that there is a need of a structured approach. So in 2009, Persistent Foundation, a charitable organization, got established with a focus on working on 3 thrust areas, that is education, healthcare and community development. So as you can see, the CSR Act came into existence in 13-14, whereas we started working on 2009. So it is not because Act is telling you to do something, Persistent is doing something.
Yes.
It is our philosophy, it is in our genes, it is in our DNA that we believe in giving back. And over a period of time, as the profits have increased, our contributions have increased. And along with these three verticals, one new vertical has been added 2 years back. That is preservation of wildlife and heritage.
Okay.
And we are now exploring ourselves in that sector as well.
Excellent, excellent. Having that background helps in navigating through this
Sure.
interview. As I was telling you before, my own day job is actually, I run a venture capital firm called Pentathlon Ventures. Happens to be the first VC fund out of Pune, through which we fund B2B tech startups at their early stage. So I find it quite analogous that we are funding for-profit startups, whereas you are funding these non-profit social impact kind of startups. And so one of the things that I do when I'm talking to startup founders is in the interactions with them is that I try to make them put into my shoes.
Correct.
So that they see my world in my perspective, and that helps them in how to approach funds, VC funds, for example.
Correct.
So I'm going to request you to do something similar. So can you help our audience get into your shoes so that they know how to approach you better? And from that perspective, can you just tell me various aspects of how a CSR looks like? So for example, you talked about Persistent. So I'm sure Persistent must be giving you, the CSR team, a charter.
Yes.
So what is that charter? Because that's your whole rationale of existence, right?
Correct.
So what is that charter that is given to you?
So as I mentioned that we work in 4 thrust areas. So in the area of education, we focus on secondary education.
Okay.
And skilling. And as we are an IT company, we support 50 girls who are pursuing their IT engineering, coming from humble background.
Okay.
So that is our charter, to focus on strengthening the secondary education piece.
Understood.
Why secondary education? Because government is also doing a lot in primary sector. There are many organizations who are in that space. And if we look at the social scenario, the number of schools compared to primary, secondary are less.
Okay.
Expenses are more in secondary education. Children need guidance in terms of career, support in science, maths, and social sciences. So we focused on secondary. IT engineering, definitely, because our employees work as mentors. So along with the academic inputs that a girl is getting, she also needs to have an exposure in terms of what is happening outside. So what is the technological challenges? A girl coming from an humble background may not have that kind of communication skills or that exposure, which our employee helps in getting her and navigate her through those 4 years. Many of them are hostelites coming from rural background. So sometimes adjusting to the city culture also becomes a challenge for them. So there also our mentors play a very important role. Skilling, we are not focusing only on a particular skill as such, but our major intervention is into paramedics. So we are supporting various nursing courses and some of the courses in the areas of BFSI. So that helps youth earn a minimum living of 10 to 12,000 per month, who has basic education like 12th or some basic graduation. So that is a charter for education. In health, our focus is on curative healthcare. As we all are aware that day by day the expenditure, so affordability of a qualitative healthcare is something which is at times becomes unaffordable even for a middle class person. So our focus is on curative healthcare, and whatever is required to address that particular medical issue, we do awareness related to that. Our flagship program is facial cleft and palate. So persons affected, individuals or families affected with that. So in Indian scenario, it is not only a condition. There are n number of blind beliefs which are attached to that particular condition. So it's a deformity which is 100% curable. But so awareness is created within schools, Anganwadis, PHC centers to get more and more patients from ground level. So our focus in healthcare is curative, majorly pediatric and geriatric. In community development, we have 3 main verticals where we are working. One is environment, where we are working on tree plantation, clean energy, water for living and water for drinking. So environment can be looked at that. And second aspect is livelihood. So livelihood where it is off farm, on farm, both kind of livelihood opportunities. So we support in terms of training, we support in terms of some basic infrastructure, Last year we have supported a group of around 90 plus youths for fishing training.
Okay.
So they come from 6 to 8 villages. They have their own small ponds in the village, but as they don't have sufficient equipment, somebody from outside comes and takes the contract for fishing, and they are working as a labor. Instead, we trained them, supported them with the equipment, and now they are, you can call them as a startup. They are a group of they are group of 10 each. So there are 7 to 8 groups who are doing this fishing business, and we guided them for end to end, right from a skill of fishing to marketing. So that hand-holding is being done with the help of an NGO, of course.
This is excellent, Yogita. Thanks for giving this whole overview. While you talked about a lot of things, I picked up a few things. For example, while everybody will do, let's say, education and healthcare, you're getting into niches. And that I can very much relate to, because as a fund also there are many funds. So how do you stand out? So we focus on just B2B tech. We focus just on early stage. That is how the market will know us.
Correct.
So similarly, I noticed that even in child healthcare, you are focused on cleft lips. That's a very strong, small, narrow niche that you're focused on.
And that is also, we are supporting not like a camp service. It is 24/7, 365.
Excellent.
So it is a center wherein a patient can walk in at any point of time.
Correct.
In case of any issues.
Similarly, you talked about girls' secondary education, and so that was very specific. This fishing thing that you talked about. And one more thing I noticed was that you are involving the persistent employees in this.
Yes.
So which means that the CSR is not as a silo. You would have to, wherever they can, in terms of IT, in terms of skilling, they are helping out. So that's a great thing to know. So now I've got a very good idea about that, and I hope our audience has too. What is the kind of team structure that you've built for the CSR?
So we have as I mentioned, we have Persistent Foundation as a charitable organization. So at times it happens that there are certain things which we want to do on our own. For example, as I mentioned, we are into clean energy. So we work for establishing solar power projects for charitable organizations or biogas installation. So there we directly work with vendors. Then our establishment as a charitable organization helps us because we are implementing CSR projects. And here our procurement team of Persistent Systems also plays an important role because we are procuring some items and their skill set comes in. So they are also part of, although they are not part of that structure of CSR, but they are into a supportive role when any kind of procurement is to be done. Focusing on to the structure, we have a ground team. At each location we have a POC who takes care of that location's program. Then we have a vertical specific head who takes care of that particular vertical. So our education, health, community development, preservation of heritage and wildlife, all these 4 verticals have one POC, and I take care, those 4 POCs report into me. I report into the chairperson of Persistent Foundation. The chairperson also has weekly reviews with the team as well as monthly reviews with the team. We have a Persistent Foundation board and Persistent Systems CSR committee to whom we report in. And the charter, so monitoring, evaluation, assessment happens through all these channels, right from the board to board, then the chairperson, then me, and then my team is the structure.
Understood.
And there are many other departments, like I mentioned, procurement, finance, legal, corporate secretarial. So whenever there are any related items, we work with those respective teams who support us in implementing the project.
Excellent, excellent. The next question is about how do you find these projects to fund? In our world, we call it deal flow. That we get thousands of applications of different startups. Luckily, India has a big startup ecosystem, and then based on our thesis, we select them. So there is a bunch of activities that we do. Of course, there is a website and LinkedIn and so on, but we also do outbound. For example, this Ideas to Impacts hub building that I talked about at a startup event. So hundreds of people come to the events and then they come to know about the fund and so on. We do such kind of events, for example. So there is a way for us to go out and let them know that we are focused on such a niche, and then that's how people come.
Correct.
What are your activities that you do? Inbound I can understand, you'll have your website and so on, but do you specifically go out to let people know. For example, I'm just saying that I don't see any advertisements, for example, that you're focused on, let's say, cleft lips. If you have an advertisement, a billboard on a main road or something, lots of people will come. So how do you reach out to people to let them know that you have these events or these activities? I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
So one is our social media handles, wherein we talk about all our projects. That is one. And secondly is that our partner base is very strong. We have around 50 plus partners across India who are helping us implement the projects. So at times, whenever we want to implement any specific project and we don't have a partner, which is a rare situation, then we approach our partners and ask if they have any recommendations. That is one. Second, my other co-CSR fellows is also one source. And third is we try and empower our existing partners to take up the responsibility. For example, one of our partner, we are implementing a project with them. Earlier, we used to implement a project with them only in Pune, a support class project. Then we realized that no, they are doing good, they have a potential. If we tell them that okay, we are exploring possibility, they will go to Nagpur. Then they started in Nagpur. Similarly, we have a wash and life skill project. They were with us for Pune and Nagpur. We thought that no, Goa is also one of our center and they have the capability. So we asked them and now they are in Goa as well. So it's a learning and growing journey for both of us. Sometimes the experiment works, sometimes we really need to put in very hard efforts.
Sometimes they fail, let us put
sometimes
it.
they fail.
Because we in the startup world are very comfortable with something failing.
Because and then that failure is also something
learning,
which can translate into learning.
Correct. Now the next step, once you have got the projects, how do you assess them? How do you do your due diligence? Is it done internally or do you have partners to do that as well?
No, it is done internally at this point of time. Internally, in terms of their all legal documents are being checked, their financial documents are being checked, actual field visit is done on their project site, interaction with the stakeholders, feedback from them about the services that they are getting from the organization, and interaction with their other donors. Like how is their experience and what is it that they are good at, what is their strength, what is their weakness, and all those things. Post that, we only start a new project as a pilot. And if at all that pilot works for a period of an year, and that has been very clearly informed to the partner, that it is possible that you may also find it difficult to work with us. It is not only that we will have challenges, you may also feel challenging. So the doors are open from both the sides. And after a period of an year, let's decide, do we want to scale up or scale down or shut down.
Great, fantastic. Now the next step, once they are on board, what is the governance structure? How do you make sure that they meet whatever objectives you have set for them? What are the kind of matrix, very important, that you have put in place? I remember that in case of Gates Foundation, I was very surprised to know that almost 40% of their budget is put on just measurement. Only 60% goes to activities. But I realized, that is very important. Otherwise you're putting in money. If you're not tracking how it's being put to use, then it's not good. So how do you do the governance and what kind of matrix do you put in place?
So for any project to be successful, it is very important that what are the deliverables is clear to both the parties, to whom exactly we want to reach out and what exactly we want to achieve. So in the beginning of the project, a MOU is being drafted, which is a guide, a Gita for both of us, which is a guiding document. So any third person, if at all he or she wants to understand the project, and if we hand over that one document, that person should be able to understand what is it. And we should not be talking about it. He should be asking a question based on that document, that okay, what happened to this? How have you achieved it? Process is not documented, but what exactly is going to be the outcome of it is documented. So in terms of deliverables, it is mentioned. Timelines, it is mentioned in that document. As I mentioned, on a weekly basis, internal meeting is being conducted. In terms of everybody talks about what has happened in past week or 15 days. Monthly, our internal meeting happens. And quarterly, all projects are they are expected to submit a report. Field visits are planned, and the board evaluates every project in the board meeting.
Okay.
So that metrics is set, and whenever it is not achieved, it is being said that it is not achieved, the reasons, the action taken, and if at all there are any inputs required, then that also gets discussed.
Excellent. This is very good. I can again relate, because a lot of times startups think that funding is an end in itself, and we try to tell them that no, for us as investors, it is just the start of the journey,
beginning,
and then you got to have that journey together and then achieve some goals.
Correct.
Very glad to know it's the same with CSR funding as
Yes.
That nobody in the audience should think that once they got CSR funding, they're done.
No.
The CSR of that corporate is just starting out with you, and they have some objectives and they have to be met. So that journey has to be planned together. So this is a very...
And I do agree with this point that the 2% which is being spent from the company is the hard-earned money of the people who are working for that company.
Correct.
And so it is nowhere documented, or no one is asking, but we as custodian of that, we should be very much responsible when we are utilizing that money, and we should be careful when it is when the projects are implemented, that every penny is getting utilized for a cause.
Correct.
And we are getting the social returns on it.
Excellent. No, great. So that I believe would have given the audience a complete idea of how the whole life cycle works. So that, thank you very much for that. Now I'm going to go into a little bit of an orthogonal direction, which encompasses all of these things that we talked about. But I think you mentioned earlier that the first thing is regulation. I think you mentioned that CSR itself started because the government laid down these rules, although persistent started before that, so they wanted to do that. How much is regulation a part of what you do? Because from what I've heard from startups or the social impact founders is that there is too much of pain in terms of filing these reports and making sure that you are within the norms of it, otherwise it might get rejected, all of those kind of things. So how do you think, what do you think about the regulation, as how big a part of it is? It is
quite considerable.
Okay.
And I agree that partially it is a pain. Okay. But as in every sector, you will find there are people who will try to find some escape route.
Okay.
So I will not be surprised if there are people in this sector also who are trying to find the way out. And so these rules and regulations are. So if we look at it from that perspective, then people who are doing things right, as I mentioned, that for persistent it was not very difficult as we were already doing it.
Correct.
So we are already following certain procedures. And one good thing is that whenever any such regulation comes in and they say that it is advisable, we take it as it is a mandatory. So we are little bit prepared when it becomes mandatory. And in case of any challenges that are there in terms of actually implementing it, we are better prepared for it. So I think that whenever because no regulation comes like from this year it is mandatory. It is first year it is advisable, from next year it is mandatory. So when it is advisable, if all of us start following that, then we understand what is the challenges, we voice them, and then maybe a solution could be found out.
Excellent. One of the interesting observations that I've had is that a lot of CSR professionals are women. Is that true? Is that fair to say?
Not really.
Not really? Okay.
Not really.
Because at least, the interviews that we have done so far, 4 out of 5 are women.
Oh, great.
We have this PIC, NCSI event that I talked about, and there are a lot of CSR, you may have attended yourself.
Yes.
A lot of those professionals are women. So I was just wondering.
Not really. There are men also in that sector, because many a times what has happened that some companies have given this as an additional responsibility to admin or to HR. Some of us are fortunate enough to have that independent portfolio.
Okay, got it. As anything, CSR also must have grown, evolved over a period of time. And you were talking about some new trends that have come into this space. Can you talk a little bit about that, because how this space is evolving?
Yeah. So there are many agencies who are implementing projects, but they are not NGOs. They are taking care of all your compliances or your documentation, everything, and they are working with ground level organizations, and they are working as a bridge between an NGO and a corporate. So sometimes a corporate who is small in size and is not in a position to decide what exactly to be done, how to be done, then there are organizations who are working like that, who help you develop, design all your policies and everything, and they take care of all your CSR part.
Okay.
That is one. There are other set of people who are working with technology. So there are various organizations who have CSR platforms wherein with the help of technology, the monitoring and evaluation and assessment and reporting becomes little more easy. So there are these set of organizations also. And of course, there are NGOs who help us implement the program. So these are the changing things in the field of CSR. With the help of these things, we will be in a better position to include technology into CSR projects and maybe have some space, more space for actual project management. Rather than investing my time into compliance, technology can take care of that, and I can invest my time more into actual giving inputs into the project.
Okay, so the space is becoming definitely more interesting.
Yes, more interesting.
In fact, you talked about even mergers and acquisitions happening in this space. That was something I had not thought of at all, but looks like that is...
that is also some NGOs, some companies are coming together. They are saying that, okay, we are more better in this space, and so that is something which I have found for the first time in the social space.
And you think all these changes are to the benefit of the beneficiaries in quantitatively and qualitatively and so on?
Maybe that the time will decide, because it is very new phenomenon.
Okay.
So commenting on whether it is beneficial or not beneficial, it is too new.
I see. But anytime such things are happening, see, people are doing these things because they see some potential.
Of course,
correct. So that from that alone, I could see that people are seeing opportunity in this, and that's why these kind of things are happening. Again, coming back to your personal experience, you have got such a long journey, a very successful one. Can you mention some personal highlights that really you felt that, yeah, I'm really doing good. This is why I'm here, and I've found this success in this activity. Some kind of highlights of your career.
So when I was working in the NGO space, there I realized that I'm really fortunate because I'm working for the dark side of the society, but end of the day I'm going back to my home, which is a brighter side. So that feeling of gratitude is always there in whatever I get in my personal space. So that is one thing which I have learnt in my initial phase of my career. In the second phase of my career, what I have learnt is that as a corporate social responsibility person, yes, there are compliances, there are certain charters, there is a framework in which you are expected to work, but there is always a space to innovate. There is always a space to walk a little extra mile, but that creates a very great impact on the partner organization or on the beneficiary with whom you are working. As I mentioned, that we decided that we will give an opportunity to a partner organization who was limited to Pune. But for that organization, a company like Persistent asking them to provide a service in another center was a great opportunity. So for them it was a good leap. For me it was just one sentence, one request. But as a company, I had that liberty to take that risk. I will not say risk because I was sure that they are competent. It is that they needed that assurance that, okay, if we go there, you are with us. So that kind of assurance, at sometimes you are in a position as a lead of that particular section, you can give that. So that is something which you can do. There are certain organizations with whom you may not be working on a very great scale, but if they two come together on one platform, then it is something that they will achieve great things. So as Persistent, we are trying to collaborate with many NGOs and bring them on a platform wherein they themselves will find out, okay, this is something which I am good at, this is something you are good at, let's work together.
Excellent.
So that is something which many of our CSR partners can help their NGO partners to
Got it.
work on it.
Any, since I've asked you about the highlights, can I ask you about the lowlights as well? Any frustrations that you feel working in this space? Because the problems in front of us are so daunting. You know that need to be done, but you may not be able to do all that you wanted to do. So what are the kind of frustrations that you have sometimes?
I will not say frustrations. Fortunately, I didn't had that moment in my life till this point of time. I don't know about remaining. But frustrations, yes, at times it feels that we are doing very little and many more things needs to be done. I'm so less of resources and these things do come to my mind. But at the same time, I also feel that I'm fortunate enough that at least I'm able to contribute a bit.
Correct.
So that feeling that, okay, in Marathi we say na kharicha vata. So at least that much I'm able to do.
Excellent.
If I wouldn't have been in this place, I would not have been able to do this much also.
Excellent.
So at this point of time, frustrations, yes, at times when I see that there is no economic or financial discipline which is being maintained, then yes, it is a frustrating thing. And I had very few such things while working as a CSR. We were fortunate enough to have more disciplined partners.
No, I was just thinking that people should get all the sides of it, and thanks for being open about it. We are coming to the last part of our session, and I would just like you to spend a minute or two on your advice to social impact founders from your position or your perspective as a CSR professional. What should they be doing in the context of persistent CSR and
many a times we find that the ideas are really brilliant, excellent. But when we want to translate them into action, then there is a gap. So when some pertinent questions related to the practicality of the solution is being checked, then the solution fails. So when you are developing something for a social space, that thought always needs to be in mind, because you are dealing with humans, that is something which is the most, what should I say, unpredictable content in the entire solution. So in social space, we always say that 1 + 1 can be 0 or 1 + 1 can be 11. Because it is ultimately the stakeholders with whom you are working and their conviction in adopting the solution that you are giving them. So practicality of the solution is something which everyone should keep in mind. And if you go with the issues also, you say that, okay, I have done this much, I don't know how to translate it. Can you help me in translating it?
Seek help.
Do you have any partners who will help me in translating it? That is also fine. But you should be transparent enough when it comes to reaching out to any corporate for any funding. Translation into action is something which a corporate is looking at.
Excellent. And similar 1 or 2 minutes on advice for potential CSR professionals who want to get into CSR. What would be your advice to those people?
Don't only learn the law. Learn how exactly the project works. Try and spend some time in the community learning how community functions. So in social work, my professor used to tell me that you must understand the difference between things that you can do, things you cannot do. And if you understand that, then you will be able to position yourself in a much more better position. And pray to God that He will give you that intelligence, that you will be able to understand the difference and then have that plan of action in place, which will help you deliver best in the best interest of the community.
Yes.
So when you do any degree, it is a license of you to get into a learning mode in that particular sector. So it is just a license of learning. So when you actually spend some time on ground, then you will be able to design your projects in a better manner.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Yogita.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
mean, in 30 minutes, you have given such a great overview of the entire activities within CSR, not just the corporate part, but even the personal part and so on. I hope it has been excellent for the audience who are founders of social and impact enterprises. They would know a little bit more about the CSR activity thanks to Yogita. But I am also hoping that it is also useful for people who want to get into CSR. You have one of the best, one of the most successful professionals here who gave us 30 minutes of a time to talk about that. So I hope it was useful to them as well. Thank you all very much for watching this session of Beyond Profit. And thank you, Yogita.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts as part of this series. Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you.